Hello, listeners. Mike here from the Grouch and the Brainstorm, and we got an episode coming up following this message. The episode is entitled Rock Bottom, and it talks about our experience with rock bottom. There's going to be talk of drugs. There is going to be talk of explicit use of drugs, and there's going to be talk about some violent acts and some things that happened in our past. And sharing our past seems to be something that relates us to other people who could be alcoholics and addicts. The Grouch and the Brainstorm does not represent Alcoholics Anonymous. We are three people who produce a podcast and talk about our recovery. We just happen to use the program of Alcoholics Anonymous in our recovery and our daily lives. That includes home, that includes family, that includes work, that includes all of our affairs, traffic, the dreaded traffic, or finances, or romances, if some of y'all have those. But I guess the main thing that the point I want to get through to everyone is that we're all inclusive. We're not exclusive. We are designed for that newcomer, and I think some of these things that you're about to hear in this podcast are very important for the newcomer to hear. You know, none of us are straight-laced. None of us are perfect. We're all flawed human beings who found a program of recovery. So with that, I hope you enjoy the podcast as much as we enjoyed recording it. And I think it's about to start right now. Welcome back. Episode 94 of the Grouch and the Brainstorm. And I'm Mike, and I'm here today with Jill.
Hey, guys.
Lacey.
Hello.
And Matt.
Hello.
And we are talking about recovery. Again, a moment of silence.
That's crazy.
Second recording, and when I say we're talking about recording, when I say we're talking about recovery, everybody goes dead silent.
Right. What's that?
What's recovery? What is it? You know. Anyway, before we get started on our topic of the day, which Matt seems to be in heavy thought about, we're going to catch up with everybody. So we haven't seen each other in a few weeks.
And guess what? Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Oh, where is my, here it is. Hey. That is my announcement music. And so I have an announcement to make. Was it posthumous or in the past? Whatever. Roger celebrated a birthday on December the 24th, his 2-year.
Congratulations, Roger.
Jennifer J celebrated a birthday.
She sure did. I was there.
December 18th, I believe, and her 8 years.
8 years.
8 years.
Congratulations, guys.
Wow.
And I hope I'm not forgetting anybody else. Two people that are friends of the show, both been on the show before, and I mean, to see 8 years and to see 2 years, just absolutely amazing. And I was at a meeting last night with Roger celebrating his birthday, and half the people there were his sponsees.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Almost 50% of the room
sir.
was Roger's sponsees.
That's great.
That
makes me happy.
Yeah. So
he's really taken off with it.
He's developed his own style of helping folks.
Yeah.
Apparently it's an assembly line type situation. But no, I was really proud to hear, to see him and to hear what he had to say. And I was happy to be able to text back and forth with Jen on her birthday just to say, hey, 8 years, another year down the hatch. No matter what, you can't take that 8 years back. So
sure.
That's right.
And same with Roger on his too. So that's my big announcement, though. I don't really have, anything else. This is our last show of the year, right? Of 2024. So when this thing comes out, we will be right on the cusp of 2025. Start episode 95 and move forward with that. So I was going to do a year in review, but I don't remember the topic from 1 week to the next. So
nope.
I decided not to do a year in review. Plus, I would probably get it wrong, We have had some great guests on this show.
We have had some.
For sure.
Oh, man. And some of them have been out of town and all in other places in the United States other than right here in Louisiana. So, wow, pretty cool.
And we've had a lot of loyal listeners, new listeners. So, thank you everybody for tuning in.
Well, hey, you're talking about Roger. Here's what's funny. I go to a meeting the other night, and all these dudes are coming up to me. They're like, "Hey, are you Mike?" And I'm like, "No, I'm Matt." And they're like, you're on a podcast, but Roger's got them all on the podcast, you know. And I'm like, I'm not Mike, you know. But anyway,
I had one come up to me last night, and he's like, "Hey, you're Mike," and I was like, "That's what the birth certificate said."
Yeah. But he's got them. He's got some good guys. They've been listening, and they were asking some questions, and it's pretty cool.
So Jill, what have you been up to?
Well, just basically work and hanging out with the pigs. The pigs escaped. There was the Great Pig Escape of 2024, and they meandered their way next door to my neighbor's Christmas party.
Party
and guys,
pigs,
I don't live in a neighborhood. This isn't like they just go to the next lot. Like there's acres.
Yeah.
I live out in the country.
They're just gonna make a plate, you know. No big deal.
Right. My neighbor texted me and said, "Hey, by the way, I think your pigs are over here." He goes, "Oh," I was like, "Oh my gosh." He was like, "No, it's okay. Like the kids are playing with them." And
Good thing your neighbor ain't Hank Williams Jr.
Well,
we got the pig in the ground.
So that's a whole nother story.
You're all nice.
I have someone that hunts on my land occasionally, and Bud and Chunk and Bud escaped previously, and I think I told you guys about this, but I didn't know that at that point Reed had them in his sights.
Wow.
He was about to shoot them, and he heard someone scream. What he thought was cornbread, but it was me screaming Chunk and Bud.
Wow.
Yeah, I
And
can
so
see
pulled
how he
his gun
confused
up.
that.
Well, Chunk and Bud, cornbread,
Yeah.
And so, and he saw me come running up, and I'm just, grateful to still have pigs today.
Yeah.
My poor babies.
If not, you'd be eating bacon and cornbread.
That's horrible. I can't believe you guys are all laughing.
That is a horrible thought.
So as a hunter too, if I'm looking at, I'm just putting myself in those. I guess if you didn't know they were there, but they don't look like feral pigs.
And they're not very big. I mean, you're thinking about.
Have you seen Chunk lately?
No,
They're big, but they're not.
They're not like.
That's not. They just don't. They're a different breed.
Yeah.
And they don't look like feral hogs.
Well,
like I would be like, that's odd looking.
Well, I mean,
like,
I drove down the road and had like a herd. I guess I don't know what a group of pigs are called, but I've had a whole crap load of them walk out in front of me.
It's called a crap load.
These things are huge.
Yeah,
I mean, those
some of
pigs are just huge, just absolute.
I have never seen
a wild pig.
Yeah.
Here's the
Really?
problem in the South, and what he's doing right is, and I know my guys out there, Rod H can probably correct me on this, but pigs can be bred, I think 3 times a year, 3 litters a year. There's no getting rid of pigs, and they're not natural to this area. So that's why hunters are.
They want to. What's the gestation period on a pig, man?
What is gestation?
Okay.
Whatever the hell that is.
That's how
Pregnancy.
long.
How long?
Oh, I don't know, but they can do 3 litters a year. So if it's 12 months,
4 months.
4 months,
Yeah.
Well, they tear up the land.
they tear up everything.
Yeah.
Apparently they tear up something if they can have 3 sets of litters a year. I'm getting tore up.
Yeah.
But
So yeah. Other than that, life's just kind of sailing along.
good.
Okay, good.
Glad to see. Hope
We
you
didn't
had a
mean to
Merry
laugh
Christmas.
at Chunk and Bud almost getting shot. You got to get them some little hunter's orange vests, dude. And they can just wander around like, oh, I can't shoot those.
Just paint them orange.
They're legal,
You just go out there and spray paint a little orange dot on the side of them.
No. But Christmas was great, and I got to spend it with the family, and I still have like the Christmas hangover. Is that such? There's no alcohol or drugs involved in this. It's just I think it's a food hangover.
Probably a lot of sugar.
A people hangover, like too many like things and people and food and too many naps.
The only time I was around people on Christmas Day was at Roger's 2nd birthday party at the club, and that was it. Nothing else. That was solo all day. It was great.
Yeah. I figured you'd be like,
Yeah. I don't mix well with people. Considering
you say that,
well,
but you do.
I mean, I mix well with
People, but not really.
Yeah.
I know my dad is the same way.
Yeah. I like a cactus. Anyway, Lacy, what have you been up to?
Working, fishing. Been fishing a lot.
Y'all have been fishing a lot. And so when is the fish fry?
Good
She catches them all. Ask her, I don't
Oh.
know.
Oh, I think sounds like someone's jealous.
No. I mean, the student has become the teacher,
Well,
So just that. And I'm like you, Christmas this year, it was just us because the kids were all gone.
Oh, nice.
And it was like, that was my first Christmas ever to be,
Yeah. I mean, or maybe
it
not
was
nice.
good.
I don't know.
No, it was because it's always like so chaotic and we're always on the go.
yeah.
It just felt good just to,
Have a day.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, leading up to Christmas, I'm 10,000 people a day around me, so.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, that's
what
normally
you have
what
to
it
do on a
life
daily
of a rock
basis.
star. The life of a rock star is how it is. Traveling on a bus and 10,000 people, and it's just tough. It is tough.
Yeah.
Matt, how about you?
Just chilling, man. Fishing,
Chilling.
hanging out at the club a little bit.
It's always good.
That kind of deal. We had a real good meeting Christmas Eve. For some reason, I was like, Christmas Eve, I need to go up there. And it was bad weather, raining and all that. Man, we had 5 people. It was their first day ever on Christmas Eve. I think it was 5.
I've noticed that before on holidays.
I was working. It was like 2:30, and I was like, I'm going home. It's Christmas Eve, and I went, you know what? I'm going to go by there for some reason, and then you just
picked up 5 sponsees.
No,
right?
no. I was no. But it was nice, to hear people. I needed to hear it once I got in there, and folks trying to get right.
Yeah. There was a newcomer in there. Now I believe he was there on Christmas Eve, but he was also back again last night. And what he said was phenomenal. What he had to say, which wasn't much. He didn't talk much, but basically, I don't know anything, but I do know I need help.
That's probably the guy that sounds like the guy that I talked to.
Yeah. He did he have any kids with him?
No, but they have 2 kids, small kids.
This one had 2 small kids with him. I remember his name.
Is his first
That's
initial.
Him. That's
yep,
him. Yeah.
Yep.
And what he had to say last night, I mean, if I don't know what everybody said in the meeting, verbatim, but I just remembered what he had to say.
It was so funny too, man, because we passed the basket and they were in the back of the room, him and his wife, and I just came by with the basket and they were struggling, man, like we all are. And his wife looks at me and she goes, "We don't have any money. We didn't know it costs anything to come in here." And I said, "It doesn't cost a damn dime. You can sit in here all you want to."
And ain't nobody paying attention to what you put in that basket.
Nope.
I told him that last night the meeting was over, and what's his name? Rod H. He's like, "Hey, have y'all passed the basket?" There's always that one guy that doesn't notice the basket go right in front of him,
I feel like it's always Rod because he goes behind them.
He keeps that dollar taped to his palm.
They walk behind.
And I gave him heck about it, so that was fun. But anyway, heading into January, for some reason, we always see an influx of people come to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous in January. So that data has not been derived from anywhere on the planet. I didn't get that off a website. I didn't get that off of some AA statistic.
Right. No quantitative studies.
The only thing that I can tell you is that for the past 9-10 years now, I have been the treasurer of the Half Past 5 group. And the dollar in the basket that we just talked about, there are more of them in the month of January than any other month.
Interesting.
And,
I mean, it makes sense.
And it usually the first 2 weeks of January, you have more than any other month of the year. That is and it may be, you're not talking about a whole bunch of stuff, right? You're just talking about maybe 15% more than what you normally would get in a basket.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I'm guessing here it could have to do with the, I'm going to go to the gym, new year, new me.
New Year's resolution.
I'm going to stop all this drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Something to do with the first month of the year. And, and the way our steps go, and if you read the daily reflection, everything goes off of a step. So that I would imagine the first step would be the month of January, which is the best time to get them in there, right? The new
Sure. Makes sense.
So they get to hear a little bit about that first step, which is, by the way, the only one we have to take 100%. Every other step, I don't know. I'm not going to go into how much you should do it or not do it, but the big book says, the 12 and 12 says that that is the only step that we have to take 100%. And I still do it every day. I still wake up every morning and remember that I am powerless over alcohol and that my life has become unmanageable. Or at the time, it's probably still unmanageable by me if I managed it myself, right? And then, a series of other stuff. But anyway, back to January. It reminds me, because I am one of many who attempted, I don't know, 1 January to get sober, and I'm going to come in here and do this. And realistically, what it took for me to actually, because my sobriety date is in June, what it actually took me to do this was hitting what I considered rock bottom. That was my rock bottom. Now I have learned since that the bottom, rock bottom, whatever, I wonder why they call it rock bottom.
Yeah,
right?
what does a rock have to do with it?
I don't know what's at the bottom.
I think because it means you stopped.
Well, yeah.
So it was
maybe.
a hard service to stop at. Like,
That's an old philosopher over
No,
there.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I
Ralph
don't know a
Waldo
lot
Emerson.
about those big words y'all been using here earlier. Whatever you said, gas station or whatever that word was.
Close enough.
Close enough. Same thing.
Next time you see someone that's expecting, ask how long they've
Been at the gas
been at
station.
the gas station.
So, but yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I'm good about rock bottom. I know about that, and I mean, and somebody that works outdoors, farming type stuff, all that type of stuff. There's places that have nothing. There's no bottom. There's a place I stuck a piece of equipment in Benton that's under a natural spring, and if I'd have left that equipment sitting there about 2 weeks, it would have disappeared, just slowly disappeared.
Because there's no bottom.
There's no bottom.
Okay.
So eventually you're going to hit a layer of something's going to make you stop. And that's what I always took from that.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, we'll go with your version.
Yeah.
How about that? Since we have no actual
It's the gas station explanation of it,
no Google rock bottom. But I do know that rock bottom is wherever you choose to give up your shovel.
Sure.
Wherever you choose to stop digging. So
I like that.
I do too.
and I actually thought rock bottom for me was really, really bad, and this is what got me to I actually thought walking in the rooms of AA was rock bottom, If I'm here with these people, I have hit the bottom, right? I have learned since then, though, that it's just where you stop digging and you don't have to continue to travel down whatever it is, a natural spring or whatever Matt was talking about. Each person has their own bottom. Each person has their own rock bottom. Some people have more than one. And it really, for me, it was just, this is more pain than I can deal with just to be drunk. My bottom doesn't even compare in any way to some of the folks that I have attended meetings with or even sponsored, right? I've sponsored, I don't know, roughly 100 people in the years that I've been sober. And I've heard some really devastating stories come out of this. And so mine's just sad. Sad for me. It ain't even really sad for anybody else. That was my bottom, right? And so it doesn't, if you read the 12 and 12, the very first step in the 12 and 12, step 1 talks about how you don't have to go to some of the bottoms that some of the other people went to in order to achieve recovery. And that's pretty accurate. So,
I mean, it's different for everybody. And I don't think it can necessarily be like one specific incident. Rock bottom for me was over like a 15-year period. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, they did.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, man, that's about the worst that could possibly happen. But then it kept going and it kept going and it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And it's just those consequences of use. And they did get worse. And it was very painful. When I was 19, which someone would think would be my rock bottom, is when I was hospitalized 3 times. And I'm talking about mental hospitalized 3 times. And so I just lost it. And they're like, you're having a midlife crisis at 19 years old. And that was pretty bad. It then went on to multiple other consequences and stuff, but
the mental hospitals didn't scare you?
Oh, I didn't have a problem then.
Yeah, she was a victim.
And I was there because I was having panic attacks, but they were drug-induced panic attacks, but I didn't believe that. Yeah. I just thought there was something that randomly happened and
maybe
has
got some
nothing
bad
to
drugs.
do with that. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what kind of set it off was some pretty high-powered hallucinogens.
Hell yeah.
I didn't know what was going on. Like,
Jill just trips me out.
She don't play around when it comes.
No.
Yeah.
well, like my vision flipped, or like some really weird things happened. But anyway,
tripping balls. I don't even know what that means. I just wanted to say it.
yeah, well, I mean, like I did, but and I another time I like kind of OD'd on some other stuff and went into convulsions multiple times. But also, again, like, what was that? That couldn't be the drugs, But I think I was just in denial for so long. But like towards the end and even like in the middle, I was having, withdrawals. And I was in denial about my alcohol withdrawals for way over a decade. I just thought, well, I just wake up and vomit and dry heave and bile, do that number for 30 minutes every morning. And that's just normal. I never was convinced that that was a problem. And towards the end of my addiction, when I got like totally twisted off on opioids, that was a whole nother deal.
Yeah.
And that brought me to a really, really, really ugly place. And I know that my last couple of years, I was withdrawing 100%, 24 hours a day. I couldn't get enough in my system, but the withdrawals were so bad and they were so painful, but also like my whole body was breaking out in burst capillaries. And I want to say they're called vascular asterisks, which is a sign of liver failure.
Yeah.
I was my hair was falling out. I was sick.
You were 19.
No, this is when I was 34.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was a whole nother sickness.
And you aged 15 years in seconds.
It's crazy,
That's
huh?
another one. No wonder you had a midlife crisis at 19. You aged really quick.
I was
Benjamin
at
Buttons.
19. I was doing a lot of street drugs, a lot of speed, a lot of that, and I just kind of lost my mind on it. But you would think,
in defense of the streets, their tacos are really good.
I wasn't eating much. When I got to the hospital, I weighed 90-something pounds at 19 years old, and they had to put me on like 7 Ensure Plus shakes with ice cream a day to get nutrients and get like weight on me.
You don't have to ask me twice.
And the opiate part, just to tag on to that, and I'm sure Lacy can too, you're eating like you can't eat.
Well, doesn't it make you have a hard time going to the restroom as well?
Yeah, I mean, it got Elvis.
Well, at the end, it turns totally different. If you're in withdrawals all the time, it's quite the opposite of constipation. But I feel like each of a drug that I was addicted through had its own bottom. I was prescribed Xanax for 20 years, and that bottom was a different bottom. It was the panic attacks and them just being so out of control and me not knowing if I was going crazy or going to die that day from the big one. I'm talking about the big heart attack. Me sitting in hospital parking lots thinking, well, if I die here, I'll be closer to the ER. But
ER can't help you if you're dead. I mean, I see your thought process.
There's doctors there. They can do something about it.
Not if you're dead.
For that to go on for 20, for 15 or,
I get you.
For all that length of time, I literally thought I was going to go crazy every day about it.
You think the Xanax made your anxiety worse?
Oh, it did. And they're known for that. I mean, that is just the cycle of addiction. That's the cycle of opioids and Xanax, alcohol, all of it. It creates anxiety. It creates dependency. You're addicted. The second it wears off, that's when the cravings hit and you need more.
Yeah.
And so the anxiety was out of control. The addiction was out of control. My pain, because like I had, when my boyfriend killed himself, I thought that was the end of it. But then.
That was the end of your using drugs? Or
no. I mean, I just thought.
Just the end of your life?
That was a bottom.
Okay. Well.
But then that day, my friend gave me a crack pipe.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, that wasn't the first time I smoked it, but then I took off with that too. So it was just so much.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And it was drawn out. It was slow and it was horrid.
Yeah.
I was going to doctors, hospitals, psychiatrists, psychologists. What is wrong with you? Oh, it's ADHD. So let's put her on Ritalin, because not only is she on Xanax, drinking beer every day and taking everything else. Let's add another drug to the mixture.
Yeah.
So
something that we prescribed.
Right. Let's put her on uppers and downers. And, I just don't know how I made that. I made it out of all that.
I don't either.
We're glad you did, though.
Yeah.
But
Jill.
but like
Damn.
I
Stay here on the
cried
farm.
every day of my life. That was a whole nother emotional bottom. I thought I knew I couldn't live like that, but I didn't understand how I could make it go away because it never once was the drugs or the alcohol. Never.
Had to be something going on in your
It was
head.
something else. And that's why I just kept going and trying to figure out what it was. But I was holding back this big lie.
Yeah.
How much do you drink? Oh, about, 2 drinks a week. I mean, I drank 2 drinks in like 30 minutes.
Yeah. Well, 30 minutes is... You nursing them at 30 minutes. But
Well, I could probably go through a 6-pack in that time. But anyway.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you
Well, yeah. So to me, it wasn't just one incident. It was a ton of incidents within, a 15-year period.
Yeah. And so you got sober at 34?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's accumulation of everything from the time you started doing drugs up until the age of 34.
I feel like the first 5 years of my addiction was all right. I was young. I didn't have the consequences. I was still having fun. But at 19, that's when everything went
south.
And it continued to go south after that.
Nothing against those in the South either, by the way.
No, I mean, like we're here.
Yeah.
I've just wondered this because you told your story before, but I had a bunch of substances too. I think Lacy did too. So I kind of had a really rough detox, but I can imagine you didn't have a lot of fun. How was that?
I was coming off of opioids and Xanax, and the Xanax had been about 20 years in the opioids for a very, very long time as well. And I was very ill. It took 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
I couldn't speak, make words for the first couple of weeks. I didn't stop crying incessantly every day until after 30 days. I had headaches, severe headaches and diarrhea for over 30 days. It was, and I'm sure all you guys know what I'm talking about. My body was aching. They had me on Neurontin because I was having such bad pain throughout my whole body. Just everything was all shaky and weird. Yeah, it was rough. I never want to feel that again.
My rehab, the class when we would be in group, the counselor kept a trash can so I could throw up in the trash can during group.
Yeah.
She wouldn't let me go back to the room. So it just stand there and throw up and then go back to listening or whatever we were doing.
I don't remember the first 2 weeks. I mean, all that's still like part of the bottom. And like people told me that I was like wrapped up in a quilt and I was the color of, they said I was gray.
Yeah, I'd imagine you'd be gray. Yeah.
They just said I was gray and they said I would just like mumble stuff to myself. I was like, that's fabulous.
So after a couple weeks, you started slowly coming out of it, or did you just kind of boom one day, pop?
I think around day 60, they said I smiled for the first time.
Day 60?
60 something.
Wow.
I'm telling you.
Actually, if you look at how long you've done those drugs, 60 days is pretty good.
I went to treatment for 97 days and my legs were still shaking, the restless leg, at 90 plus days. I mean, that was after I got out of treatment and I was still.
It was weird. And I remember like sitting in group and I'd like that fog. I remember it hadn't yet passed, but I remember sitting there and we're saying goodbye to some people that were graduating. And I remember I wanted to say a word and it was like, I was trying to make a sentence and I had to write down like the word and I was like, try to say it. And it like, I couldn't put 2 words together.
Sounds like a dream.
And it feels like one. And I remember crying because I remember thinking, man, I really fucked it up. I'm perma-fried, man. I'm not coming back from this. And it scared the hell out of me.
Another big word, you know?
Yeah.
What? Perma-fried?
Gas station,
man,
perma-fried.
that's some 90s best right there.
Is that a real word? Permafried? Is that
no, that's like some Urban Dictionary stuff.
Oh, is that on Wayne's World? Did they say that on Wayne's World?
I mean, they could have. I mean, I don't remember the words to Wayne's World other than "fuck it." Oh, just kidding.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was a good one.
What just happened?
she had a flashback.
Right, and I even had the hand.
How many times did you go to treatment?
Well, I went to treatment those 3 times in like 1995. 96, but like I didn't go there to get sober. I went there because like make my panic attacks go away.
Just calm down a little.
Right, and they gave me Xanax and Ativan. I was like, oh, okay, I'm cured. But then I went to that last place in 2010.
Matt, what does rock bottom mean to you?
Well, listening to Jill,
Probably should let Jill go last.
man, it was a lot of similarities with her and I on our part. I didn't do the hallucinogen. Is that a word? Is that the right word?
Yep,
I didn't
that's
do
it.
those as much. I wasn't dabbling in that, but most of the rest of the stuff I was.
And this was in the early 2000s.
From 2000.
Well, some drugs seem to be more popular at certain times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or certain ages of how old you are.
I mean, I'd been drinking since the mid '90s, and then the mid 2000s started dabbling with other stuff and messing around with other stuff. Then introduced opiates and methadone down that road, and it got pretty garbage can there the last 10 years. It was just a mix. It was like a bar urinal
Like
at that
just
point.
dumpster.
It's just whatever.
Yeah.
Don't eat the white mint. You know what I'm saying?
Whatever you throw in.
Yeah, whatever was in there at that point. And then you say rock bottom, but I lived like that for 10 plus years.
Mhm.
And
Had to be something though that happened to get you to say, I got to wake up.
So I've told y'all this before, but I didn't do a lot of the last 10 years. Early on, it was a big party. The last 10 years, it was all myself. Like, I didn't hang around other people as far as using, drinking. Didn't want to be around other people. You had to share your stuff with them. For the most part, I was just by myself. Yeah, it was like I couldn't figure out how to stop. And I was like, I have to stop. But yet, like Jill talked about, I lived in a constant state of withdrawal.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. 2 a.m, 2 p.m, 9 o'clock on Sunday.
Did you ever think though that like, oh, this is the drugs and alcohol? Like, why did that ever?
I just thought, why can't they give me more so I don't have to feel like this? Like, who regulates this stuff? Like what? No one should have to go through withdrawals like this, and
well, I'm thinking they're designed to do that.
but I finally got to the point that all that stuff wasn't even working anymore.
Yeah.
It wasn't doing any of that, and it became a job in itself to keep from getting sick.
And it is a job. It really is.
Oh, it's a full-time job.
And 100% agree. Just to stay right like I am right now, right? Just to be just like this, it would take me a fifth of vodka.
Yeah.
Just to feel normal. Because, I mean, and once that alcohol level started changing, going down, I would feel the shakes wouldn't immediately come on, almost like a flu-like thing going on where your body starts to ache.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Then you hit the shakes, then you hit, so I get you.
So my days were like, I was telling Lacy this the other day, my days there toward the end were get up, the guy I worked for would go by his house and pick him up. I'm not calling him an alcoholic, but he would pour Crown in coffee cups. We would run in the morning before we went to work, drinking the Crown, throw a little bit of that up, drink some more to get it down, beer in the truck. We'd hit the road cutting grass, taking Adderall all day, snorting Adderall, mixing in drinking throughout the day, opiates and methadone in our system. It was those type things, and it was just a constant cycle of that. I lived like that for a long time and worked and did everything. Wasn't even nothing like I am now. I couldn't ever sit still anywhere. It was constant. If I thought I had everything I needed, my brain was already like, wait, what about tomorrow? Did I do this? Did I do that? It was exhausting. And
it is the game.
I finally got to the point and I went, man, like I've got to stop this, but I don't know how to do it. I guess because I'm not hanging around. It's so funny that I know all these people in recovery now, because I know anybody in recovery when I was doing all this. I never heard of nobody talk about a meeting, about rehab, none of that. I was at the point to like, I'm just going to kill myself. I can do that. It's the only way it's going to stop, because there's no way that I can see that somebody could talk to me and I could just stop. I figured I could go to a shrink or something. That ain't going to work. It ain't going to work. Kept getting to that point, that was buzzing in my head for quite a while. And woke up one Sunday morning and some people were standing over me, my in-laws, ex-in-laws, and good people. And they were like, hey man, look, we found a place that will detox you. If you want to go get help, we can get you help. You can take it from there if you decide to go to treatment or whatever. And for whatever reason, I said, yeah, I'll go. Didn't give it too much thought. And that was the way I ended up going. But, you go in there, and even in there, the rock bottoms. So I'm there about 4 or 5 days. And the detox really didn't even start. I mean, I thought I was getting sick. I end up transferring to a treatment center. I get up there, and it really got bad. and I was hallucinating and couldn't sleep, didn't sleep for several days, and already wasn't sleeping. They took me out of the rehab and sent me to they call it the crisis center, but it was a mental institution. And I remember
probably a higher level of care to detox.
Yeah. And but I remember this vividly, waking up that morning in that mental hospital, and it was just all kinds of things thrown together. This wasn't, I don't know how they do it. It's the only one I've ever been to, but this wasn't just folks coming off drugs. You know, these were people that had serious, real issues. I was sitting there that morning and I had a 4X men's scrub top on.
Yes.
I weighed 150 pounds. Okay. Then a medium pants. So they were cut off about mid calf, and no shoelaces in my tennis shoes that had holes all in them. They took my shoelaces, and I remember sitting there that morning on the couch, and I was like, yeah, I should have killed myself. You know, I was like, I missed a chance. Now I'm here, you know, but I sat in there for a few days and I watched those people walk around in there, and I was like, you know what? These guys got real problems. Like, I can figure this out. And being in there was almost kind of a thing for me to like, hey, this isn't normal. Most people don't go to the mental hospital because they're hallucinating. That was kind of a point to where it went, you know, if you're going to get this, now's the opportunity. Stay there a few days. They sent me back over to the treatment center, and I hung with it. You know, I just made up my mind. I went, well, I was going to kill myself before I came in here. I'll give this a shot. If it doesn't work, I can always go back and kill myself. And I mean, I told my therapist that. I was like, it's either way, you know, I didn't care. For whatever reason, it stuck. And a lot of that was God just putting the right people where they're supposed to be all the way along the line. Just when I needed that extra boost or that extra deal, somebody would step in and just kind of help me through a spot. Man, it's been great to come out of that and to realize that, yeah, I can actually sit and talk with people and not drink and use. And today, to be where I'm at today, as far as that far down the road, and I don't think about it that much, hardly ever. That's a miracle, man. That's a miracle, you know?
Yeah. It's a miracle just to go from thinking about it all day, every day,
obsessing all
to
day.
not even thinking about it at all.
I don't really,
right?
you know, I do not think about it at all.
Yeah.
Just one of those things I don't think about. I don't
What
know.
was your rock bottom like, Mike?
Well, it was a little different than you guys. It wasn't quite.
Mike's like, I was in Juarez, Mexico.
Oh, no. And they had ran out of tequila.
I was down there fighting chickens. And
Yeah, we were doing cockfights, but I have never, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, I've never used drugs at all. Never. I mean, obviously, over-the-counter stuff I've used as far as whenever I had a cold, or I've never abused an over-the-counter medicine.
Mm-hmm.
I've never smoked weed. I've never, even to be honest with you, I've only actually seen weed, like the actual thing, twice in my life. So, and I've never seen some of the drugs, like I don't even know what the consistency of some of these major drugs is, right?
Yeah.
And so I just drank, and I drank a lot. And, you know, I thought I had hit rock bottom when my kids really wouldn't have anything to do with me, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I would wake up and, you know, the wife and the kids would be gone, stay in a hotel because I went on a rant while I was drunk. And I'd try to find them, couldn't find them for a few days. And I thought that was my rock bottom. And that's when I really first started trying to go to treatment and get help. And I was kind of like you guys when you talk about the hamster wheel, because I had to have a certain level of vodka. I mean, any alcohol would do, I'm sure, in my body in order to feel normal. And I did not want to, it wasn't working for me anymore.
And it wasn't a drunk, happy, oh, I'm good to go. It was just, I have to function.
There was nothing good about
I can walk.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't recreationally drink a fifth of vodka in a few minutes. You know, it's just not, that's not how it was designed for. Even the designers, right? And so I first started trying to get help in about 2008. I think I went to my first treatment center. And my biggest fear was not any of this crap, you know, that some folks think AA is. My biggest fear was the shakes. I didn't like them. And you know what? My biggest fear was people finding out.
Oh.
That I was an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was my biggest fear. You know, go to work. I mean, eat like 10 boxes of Altoids, or you'd always have a bag of Halls on you. Or
I always had the big thing of Tums. Alcohol gave me the worst indigestion.
Yeah, I was trying to keep people from knowing, not keep.
And then we all do
throwing
that.
Up on people.
Everybody knows anyway.
We do that, and then everybody's like, "Yeah, no shit, we knew."
Yeah.
You find out later.
But I think my actual rock bottom was whenever I wanted to kill myself. Like I woke up that morning on June 21st, 2011, and I realized that the only way I was going to beat this thing would be to take my own life. That was just it. I'm going to show this thing. I'm going to kill myself. And then some crazy stuff happened, and I obviously that didn't happen. I didn't, and so I think just the fact I even considered killing myself was enough to where, because I was serious.
Yeah.
I was serious. I've said this before, even when I told my story, but once you reach that point where you have decided how, when, where, and you're fixing to go and do it, and then something intervenes, whether it's somebody knocking on the door or a phone call or lightning strike, whatever it is, right? And that happens and you have to put it off for a few seconds. You never are the same person after that. I've never been the same person after that initial, hang on a minute, because so whenever I went to rehab for the very last time, which was right, that day, June 21st, 2011, whenever I went for the very last time, I realized I'm fighting for my life, but I'm fighting myself for my life. And that's really a strange feeling when I started to understand some of the things people told me over the years from this initial thing, like, your brain is out to get you and all these things, it started making sense. And I'm like, I really am crazy. I thought I was suicidal. I thought I was homicidal. I thought I had mental illness. And there are legitimate cases of mental illness. I would never downplay that, right? Mm-hmm. But for me, and from my experience, once I sobered up, I realized I'm just an alcoholic. And this is so petty compared to some of the other stories I hear, but one of the deciding factors, and this is it, is after the 6th time that I went to rehab, that psychiatrist that was my head psychiatrist that I saw once a week or whatever, he actually put on there alcohol dependent, and he had never done that before. He had always put alcohol abuser. Mm-hmm. He had never put dependent. And I guess that kind of struck a nerve. And then, so all of these things coming together, losing the wife, losing the kids, having nowhere to go, almost losing my job, to the point of, all of that is, hey, dude, you got a chance. This is it, and I was scared to actually get out of rehab. That scared
me too.
I didn't want to go back out into the real world. Hated it when I first got there, because you have to sleep on like plastic sheets, and you got a roommate, and he's doing whatever. And so that kind of thing. What did shock me though is at the rehabs they had the hand sanitizer that smells like pure alcohol. Like you're thinking, I just couple squirts right here in this Coke.
Hey, they were doing it.
But they did. They had straight up hand sanitizer, and it was new. Hand sanitizer was new back then. Like most people didn't, when like post COVID, everybody has a little bit somewhere, Mm-hmm. But pre COVID, that was a rare thing, and so all of that combined, you're about to lose everything, and now it's your life. For me, that was my rock bottom, and I sometimes think because. My liver wasn't functioning properly. Body functions didn't work right. My eyes were always a yellowish color.
Yeah.
And if they wasn't yellow, they were red. My fingernails, the base of my fingernails was yellow. And just, you could tell by certain things that go on in life that my liver was messing up. And so you start to put everything into perspective, and I had already basically lost the kids, and that would, for me, that was enough to get me to go to AA. Yeah. It takes that to go to AA.
Yeah, all that crap we've been talking about.
I mean, then I'm out of AA, and I'm scared to death to go anywhere else but AA, because I'm thinking this is my 1 hour of life right here. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to stay around. I'm just going to sit here in the dark until the next meeting comes. Y'all go ahead and lock me in, And that's basically how it was down at the Koala Club. But for me, that was a turning point, and it says in how it works, we reached the turning point.
Yeah. And I think that has a lot to do with what emotional and that emotional pain. Well, and not only that, the physical pain.
I remember the first day I walked into AA, looking around. Number one, I thought everybody in there had their stuff together, right? I'm like, oh man, these people got it going on. I want to be just like him. I did not realize, some of the folks are just passing through, and they're going to. I thought this is going to be my group for the rest of my life. But I remember walking in there and looking at it and feeling defeated. 100. I don't really ever feel defeated, right? I'm not one of those kind of people. But I was completely defeated. I remember telling myself, all right, I'll do step 9. Damn.
Skip all the rest. Let me just go on down.
Well, that was the one that kept me out of there for so long. I was just like, I'd go in there and be like, I'm not doing 9, man. I'm not making amends to any of these people.
I think also even my bottom went into like my recovery. Are you willing to go to any length, and you need to move into a halfway house. What? Yeah. Wait.
That was another one, yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, halfway house. I forgot about that, but they tried to talk me into moving into a halfway house.
And then but I think this was all part of humility. I mean, I just, and when I got my first job, because I was going out trying to find really good jobs, like jobs that I had before, and I couldn't find one because no one wanted to hire me. And then being like, well, you can empty trash cans at the facility, at the treatment facility, and clean desk. I was like, okay. And we'll start you off at $8. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And to me, even all that stuff was like a rock bottom, because it was like, wow. And it was awfully humiliating, but it's exactly what I needed.
But if you think about it like that right now, someone who's listening to our podcast might be going, hey, I'll do whatever for $8.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. It just was such an important lesson for me. It was huge. I needed that.
Yeah.
My ego needed that. So I sure thought I was something.
Yeah, we all.
God bless.
What about you? Was you something?
Yeah, I thought I was too, for sure. I was the same.
I mean, I still think I'm something, but go ahead.
And two, I started at $11 an hour, and I was like,
what?
Yeah.
Inflation.
And I was like, 11 an hour, but that also humbled me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I really found gratitude. I was like, dang. And then same thing, sober living. Rock bottom for me, I thought it would be getting raped, overdosing. You would think all those things, but it wasn't. Nothing. I wouldn't stop for anything. I remember wanting to stop, but I couldn't. I couldn't even get out of the bed, okay, and go to work the next morning at State Farm unless I had 25 Lortabs at least.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was taking 5 at a time.
Yeah.
And about the eating you were talking about earlier, I wouldn't eat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to mess that up.
Yeah.
Rock bottom for me was losing my marriage of 16 years, losing my kids. I'd never been away from them. Jail didn't faze me. It scared me, but it wasn't like, oh, I want to quit. I got out and went and did the same stuff. So it was losing my kids, losing my ex, going to Brentwood for the 3rd time. And I was detoxing off of Xanax and subs. And they thought I was demon possessed. I was acting a fool. I don't know. I don't ever want to feel that way again.
No.
Know that.
But where was the point of it? Was there just a week time, a day time?
Okay, so I went to Brentwood and I went back to my old house, and I literally was about to kill myself. I was on the camera talking to my oldest sister, and my ex-husband heard, and he came in. So when you said that a minute ago, Mike freaked me out. He came in the door. He heard me say, "Where's the guns? I'm about to kill myself." And he came and took the guns.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And made me leave, and I went to rehab after that to Pecan Haven.
How long had you been out of Brentwood when you did that? A few days or just got there?
That day.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah. I was like, I don't have nothing to live for. I don't have him. I cannot live without my children at all. My parents are gone, but I always use that as an excuse also. I held on to anything bad that happened. I don't want to feel it. Let me just go get it. Ha, ha, ha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I guess we all have that moment,
Yeah.
that moment where it's just too much. And we actually are, we're 4 people who've been sober for a while. How long you got, Lacy? 6 years?
Yeah.
And Matt, 6?
Yep.
And 13 and 14. There are people out there who never get the opportunities that we get because they get stuck in that hamster wheel. And absolutely, they actually finish off what some of us have talked about starting to do. And, you know, I to be honest with you, I sit here as I was listening to Lacy talk, I think about no one has ever challenged my love for my children, right? You know, a matter of fact, when it comes to the rest of the world, I can be a chameleon if I need to be. But when it comes to my children, I can actually be genuine. You know, now it's a little bit different. I'm still genuine with my kids. Don't get me wrong. I don't run from my kids. I don't hide anything from my kids. I'm 100%. And I love my kids just as much today as I did back then. But my actions made it look like that I loved alcohol more than I did my kids. And if you're a kid, that's what you see.
Right.
You know, daddy's always drunk. Daddy doesn't want to throw the football. Something simple like throwing a football, you know, and that the impression that my children are getting is this guy that, you know, they don't know any different, right? And I'm not showing them any different. And a lot of what I went through back then was because I really love my kids no matter what I do, but I can't stop this, even for them. You know, it's just there's not enough love in the world for me to stop.
Yeah.
There's not enough love in the world. So here's what I'll do. I'll hide it. I just won't let them, but I couldn't even control it long enough to hide it. You know, you hide it until you start slurring.
Yeah, we all think we're, my family called it the voice.
Yeah.
Because I was trying so hard to sound sober that I sounded stupid.
Some people have the eyes. You know, like if you ever get a new sponsee and you sponsored him for a couple months and they come in, they're a little cross-eyed, you know. They come in and they have the eyes, though. It's showing right in their eyes. And you're looking at them like, what the fuck? And they're, have you been drinking? Oh, no. No. Well, I'm over here. Yeah. But no matter what, you know, I couldn't even hide it from them. And you know, tonight we have talked about some pretty serious drug use, some pretty serious drinking. The truth is, though, you don't have to get to that point. You do not have to get to that point. If you can, you know, one, you got to admit you got a problem, right? That's step one. We talked about it earlier. You got to work that 100%. But once there's a problem and you can start figuring out the solution with a sponsor in some form of group, whether it's a AA group, NA group, CA group, GA, whatever, right? There's so many groups nowadays. But if you can get in there and get you a sponsor who's figured it out, or at least or staying sober one day at a time, then you don't ever have to go to some of the depths that we did.
But let me interject real quick.
I know what you're about to say. I feel it.
You know me pretty well. I mean, I'm glad I did.
Me too.
And I know all of us probably feel exactly the same. And any recovering alcoholic, you know, that's been around for a while will say the same thing.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't be where I am today. And it took pain. Pain's a great motivator to change things.
Pain is the touchstone of growth.
Yeah.
And and not only being where we are today, but that person that comes in that's going, oh, I got 19 different narcotics in my body right now. I'll never survive this. And we laugh, like Austin and I sitting with the guy the other night, and he's like, I'm never going to, me and Austin are laughing because we're like, yeah, we will, you know.
You don't understand.
You don't know yet, but you will.
Sure.
And just chill out. It's going to be all right.
But it's so scary.
Oh, yeah,
It
for
really
sure.
is.
And we all know that feeling. And the guy was kind of looking at us like, why do they keep laughing? I'm sure he's thinking that. And I'm like, we're laughing because you're textbook where we were when we came in. You're saying the same stuff. It's a repeat, a record, just repeating and repeating. And, but I will say this, my youngest daughter, Andy, is in here. She was 1.5 when I went to treatment. And she's like 48 years old now, I think.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Talk about midlife crisis.
Yeah. My older kids remember a lot more of the using and drinking and all that kind of stuff, and they remember the bad old days. But Andy started coming to meetings with me when she was probably 4. And I waited a while to take her. She kept asking what I was doing and all that kind of stuff. And I took her one day to a regular meeting. She sat through the meeting, listened, you know, the whole deal. We get back in the truck to leave. I said, what did you think about the meeting? And she said, I have a question. why was everybody talking about alcohol? And I said,
Legitimate question.
Legitimate question, but it was a great question because it reminded me that I did get away from that stuff and where I was. And my older kids didn't get to, they would know. She doesn't even know there's no alcohol at my house. We don't do any of that stuff. It's not a thing in our lives, you know, and I'm very grateful for that, to go from that to living this way today.
Imagine being a kid and you go to a room with your dad and there's a whole bunch of strange people there and all they're talking about is alcohol.
Yeah, she was like, what was going on there? And I'm like, hey, you know, we get together and talk about it. So, yeah, we ain't got nothing better to talk about, I guess.
Like taking a kid to ferret cleaning class. I mean,
yeah.
you know when you go in, you're going to see some ferrets, right?
But, dirty ferret.
Yeah, but when you just go to some strange building and then all of a sudden everybody's talking about alcohol, you're kind of
right, all walks of life too.
Yeah. Everybody's talking about alcohol, which is about the most conversation I have on alcohol other than this podcast in my entire life.
I mean, we don't talk about it at my house. There's nothing. We just do life, you know. But it was such a gratitude thing to look at that and go, we're on the right track. So,
do you ever have people bring up alcohols that you've never heard of?
Yes, all this new stuff.
Well, I heard of something called the old fashioned for the first time ever.
That's been around forever.
Well, I mean, they call it an old fashioned, Jill. I mean, I'm going to imagine it was the first ever alcoholic beverage besides wine, you know,
or moonshine.
But I had never heard of an old fashioned.
Man, I don't wise. I drink pretty much everything. Most times didn't know what it was called. Just drink it.
So, gasoline. That's 87 octane.
Yeah, I preferred that untaxed farm diesel myself, but that's fine.
Too. It's cheaper when you buy it by the truckload.
That's right.
I've actually heard some folks talk about, you know, and Jill's like, she's right there with me. There's some new stuff out there. I probably was 3 or 4 years sober, and a case of pecan pie whiskey came in or something.
What?
Yeah, something to that.
I saw a peanut butter and jelly moonshine the other day. That sounds disgusting.
Ew.
That sounds disgusting.
I don't know.
It all sounds disgusting.
Yeah, I mean,
thank God.
Any peanut butter and jelly beverage. However, I'm gonna tell you right now, if I was still drinking, I'd be like, damn, that sounds good.
I don't even think, I mean, like I was just
sardine flavored vodka. Hell yeah, I'm all over it. I'm jumping on that stuff.
I walked in a couple of years ago. My brother we go to a lot of MMA fights here in town. We go to Sam's Town and watch them when they come in town, and he always buys a table, so we all go. I've taken people early in recovery with me. They get to go hang out, and it's fun, a lot of fun. But he'll have a drink, you know. He has one every evening. I thought, man, I want to get him something nice that'll actually use. And so I said, I'm going to go by the liquor store and get him some of Conor McGregor's, that proper number 12, the Irish whiskey.
I've heard of it.
I said, I'm going to get him a bottle of that. He come out with his own whiskey, and he's a fighter. So I did. And, you know, I walked in Thrifty Liquor, and I think that's the first time I've been in there. And I went, man, I'm glad I quit drinking. I can't afford this crap. Yeah. You know, I'm looking at the prices, and I'm just like, I'm out. I grabbed what I needed and left.
Well, you know, that sounds crazy. And we're about to wrap this show up, but I'll be, let's say, looking for a cable for one of these microphones that we're talking into, right? And I'll look online for an upgraded cable, and they'll want $36 for a cable, and I'll be like, I'm not paying $36 for a cable for that podcast, but I would pay $36 for one drink at whatever place. You know, the one that comes to mind is Copeland's Restaurant, and you know, I would pay $36 for 2 or 3 whatevers. You know, it didn't even faze me. And here I ain't paying $36 for no cord.
It was just, that's a weird thing to walk through and go, was I paying this much money for this stuff? Like,
it's sick when you think about the money.
It really is. It really is.
Yeah. Well, actually, a lot of people say, you know, whenever you get sober, you end up having more money because you don't spend it on liquor. But I was just the opposite. I actually had less because I started spending it on having fun, taking the kids places and getting up and not sleeping, you know, as opposed to, you know, I don't know. I was a cheap drunk.
I'll just say that I have a savings account now.
Yeah. Yeah. There you
Definitely
go.
never
Hey, when I
had
first
one
got
of
out
those.
of treatment, I did my banking at Thrifty Liquor. Okay,
Wow.
like
I did too.
paid bills, cash checks,
That's exactly where I went.
and I'm
You get
90
your alcohol,
days. And
tobacco, and firearms all in one place.
I mean, look, and I finally went, I've got to not do this. Like, this is not cool. So, yeah, but we got there. So, but anyway,
guys, we passed. How many listens was that, Matt? How many? 8,000?
8,000.
Passed 8,000 listens today. And that is just phenomenal. How many on YouTube?
550 something. It's been up a couple of weeks. So,
yeah, so look up the Grouch and the Brainstorm on YouTube out there, guys, if you're looking for something extra to look at or see or hear. Not see. I guess you got to look at the screen, but it's audio. It's all audio so far. So far, we haven't posted any videos yet. That hopefully is coming, but we actually like some of our numbers, especially since we've had some of these guest speakers, Danielle out of, was that Idaho?
Idaho.
And then we had Lee out of California. Man, I've had somebody's like that, they just give you the thumbs up when they're talking about it. Hey, thumbs up, and you're like, is that me? On the phone, that just means okay. It's kind of a smart ass gesture on the phone, but like in real life, when you give the thumbs up, it's pretty cool.
I get in trouble if I text Lacey K.
Yeah,
I have to say okay. She's like, did you K me?
Yeah, I
I'm
don't like it.
My bad.
It's rude.
Yeah, I mean, I got to hand that one to you, Lacey.
Have we added new countries?
We have not added any new countries. We do have a new comment. I'm not going to read it online, but don't you usually answer those comments?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's one on Grouch and Brainstorm. We do have 160 followers, which don't sound like a lot, but for us guys, if you look back about 10 episodes, we had 127 followers. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to look at this real quick.
To have 160 and have 8,000 plays, that's loyal followers is what that is. That's everybody listening to everything.
56 on average plays per week. We have 8,007 listens, and our audience size, 76 people have listened to our show in the last 76 in the last 7 days. I'm sorry. So, yeah. And that is just Spotify, Apple Podcast. We're not on Wondery. I think that's the only forum that we're not on because there's a little bit extra stuff you got to go through to get there. So that will probably be our last. But we're on every other Amazon Music,
Yeah.
all I can think of. But
we do have coming up pretty quick. We have a couple in recovery from Utah, from Salt Lake City, and they have a really interesting story together. They're going to be on together. We tried to get him on tonight, and he is hunting for a few days, so they're kind of apart from each other. But when he gets back in, hopefully here in the next week or so, we'll have that episode coming out. It's going to be really good.
Well, hopefully we can get that. And then, Matt, that was you that left the comment.
You really can't read it then.
It just says, thanks, Lee. Great story. And it was a great story. Really enjoyed having him on. Full of energy and full of yes, let's go do this thing.
Judy sent me a comment about his episode on Instagram. She sent me a message about it and loved it. She said, love the energy, the whole deal. And I screenshotted it and sent it over to him, and he was just tickled. He's like, oh my gosh. I said, look, if Miss Judy likes you, you did good. So
we need to mail him a Rule 50 or Rule 62 chip.
Yeah, that's what she told me. She goes, yeah, we need to do Danielle and Lee.
We'll have to get another bag. We've almost gave away all our Rule 62 chips.
Larry and Judy going to have to tighten up, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, it's getting about that time.
It's almost Mardi Gras time, though.
Yeah, we can catch a few. Put some Sharpie on.
Rule 62 float.
Yeah, that's what we'll do, a Rule 62 float. GrouchandBrainstorm.com. Got to remind you guys, it's still out there. My daughter still does it every day. She updates the website. She keeps up with the analytics and takes care of a lot of the stuff behind the scenes and gets us rolling in a lot of new areas. So visit the website, leave a comment, just anything you want right there. You can get a hold of us. And then we always have our Instagrams, our own separate Instagrams if you want to get a hold of us. And if you want to be on the show, get with Matt, let him know. We'll figure out a way to get you on. It's just a phone call away, right?
Sure.
Pretty easy.
Pretty easy.
Public service announcement, guys. New Year's is coming up. Be safe.
Be safe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't drink and drive.
Yeah. And to be in the weather we have right now, you don't even have to be drinking. I drove over here from Dallas, and I left my store at 11:30, and I got here at what, 5 o'clock.
Jeez.
It took me 6.5 hours to get from Dallas to Bossier City, which is a 3-hour trip.
Didn't you say there were
at least 30 wrecks, of which 15 were big trucks that had ran off and just had to ditch their vehicle in the median. I mean, I basically could have walked over here faster, I would have ran, but I didn't have my loincloth, which is what I have to have before I can run.
God, talk about animal control.
Where'd you get the loincloth?
Well, it came straight from a loin. It's the rare loin plant that grows in only Dallas area.
By them gas stations, probably.
And it's a little itchy at first, but you get used to it. I think that's the show, guys.
All right, guys.
We have been at Rule 62 Studios in sunny Bossier City, Louisiana. And as always, we're the Grouch and the Brainstorm.